Hey everyone, Sith Art Master here with a new video series that I'm going to be starting on, where I'm going to be pitting Naruto characters against Star Wars characters, and maybe some other characters from other universes as well. We'll see how it goes. So anyways, Darth Vader versus Pain. How would such a battle turn out? Well, it's my job to analyze their weapons, armors, and skill to find out who would win a death battle. Okay, no, I'm not gonna do that. But anyways, in order to figure that out, I'm first going to start listing off Vader's different powers and abilities and some of his best known feats. Then I'll compare them to each of the 6 paths of pain, and see how their different abilities would react to each other and see if any of them have what it takes to take on Vader. Darth Vader, also known as Anakin Skywalker, is one of the most iconic and badass villains in the entire Star Wars universe. Maybe in fiction altogether. He's also probably one of the most powerful in the Star Wars universe, that is. So when I began researching for this video, I admit I was in the mindset that Pain was going to be more or less leading the fight the entire time. But as I started to dig in, I found that Darth Vader is even more of an absolute powerhouse than I thought, and is definitely not lacking in the range of different powers and skills that he could use to counter many of Pain's abilities. Now, Darth Vader has several different force abilities. We all know about his iconic force choke, force push, pull, and lightsaber throw thing, but did you know that he can use the force to actually create shields of pure energy, also known as force barriers, and he can control the minds of animals as well, and beasts of any kind. He can predict the movements and actions of enemies using precognition, use the force to survive long periods without air, force-induced super speed and agility. It also creates the effect of slowing down time, much like that of the Flash, force jump, as well as force levitation. He can even levitate himself. Yeah, you heard me right. Darth Vader can actually fly, or hover at least, since his armor does weigh around 200 kilos. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just the tip of the iceberg. He can absorb energy, hide his presence from other Force beings, or just straight up turn invisible. He can heal himself using the Force, read people's minds. His power with the Force is so strong, in fact, he can actually crush the organs inside someone's body. And this is starting to seem a bit underwhelming. Just wait, we're about to get into his different feats. With Darth Vader's precognition sense, he can block attacks from behind without even looking at them. He once had his arm chopped off, which he then controlled using the Force, and used it to kill the one who chopped it off with. He's fought a massive skyscraper-large monster that literally fell from the sky onto a planet and completely destroyed an entire civilization, forcing the last bit of the survivors to hide underground, which he then killed, alone, with just his lightsaber. He's been shown to be able to create force barriers strong enough to stop multiple proton torpedoes and leave the ship he was in completely unscathed, which easily puts him at a small island level. His armor is durable enough to not only withstand lightsaber bolts, survive multiple lightsaber blows, but even large building level explosions as well. And he once fought 1,000 rebels alone, and barely even broke a sweat. Alright then, now that we got that out of the way, let's start checking off the different paths of pain. So what do we got here? Let's start with the animal path. So the animal path basically just allows you to spam the summoning jutsu, and gives you access to some pretty powerful and weird summons, which include a giant bird, a giant hydra dog, a giant panda, and so on. So somebody could make the argument that Darth Vader would be completely overwhelmed by these insane summonings that the animal path has. But if you were listening before, you might remember that I said that he once fought a massive skyscraper-tall, civilization-destroying monster from outer space. And this is just one of many of the insane creatures that he's fought over the years. So that argument is completely trash. In fact, I don't even think it would actually be a good idea for Pain to even use the animal path during this fight, because one of Darth Vader's 4th powers includes controlling the minds of animals. Now, granted these are summonings and not regular animals, and they also have Pain's rods embedded into them, so Pain can control them directly, I assume, and Pain's connection with them is probably strong enough to fight off Vader's mind control, or at least be a good enough contender for it. If it weren't for the fact that he's controlling 6 other people at once while fighting him. So all in all, there's not much the animal path could really do to Vader. it'd probably be a better idea if he just didn't use the summoning jutsu at all, and Pain just uses him as a decoy. Okay, who's next? Let's do the Preta Path. Okay, it can absorb the chakra from people by touching them. Okay, it can absorb any attacks and chakra-based jutsus. Creates a force field around himself that allows him to absorb attacks from any direction. And wait, that's it? Wow. So it seems that the Preta Path is also completely useless as well. So far, it's not looking too good for Pain. I mean, you could use the argument that the force is close enough to that of the chakra, and the Preta Path could just absorb any of his force-based moves. But I mean, even if he could do this, which is extremely unlikely, the Preta Path would still be susceptible to the fact that whenever he absorbs something, it doesn't change any of the properties of the attack or energy. We see this in the fight with Naruto, when the Preta Path tries to absorb the Sage Chakra, and it gets turned into a frog statue. So if in theory the Preta Path could absorb the Force, then it should also be in theory susceptible to being controlled by Darth Vader from having absorbed the Force. Now moving on to the Human Path. Now the Human Path is not really a fighter-based path, it's more or less meant for just extracting information and really being a big asset in battle. The Human Path's abilities allow him to rip people's souls out, instantly killing them, but he does actually have to make physical contact with the target first, and it does take some amount of time to actually rip someone's soul out. The big problem with this is that we don't know how much physical contact is needed for the Human Path to rip someone's soul out, and this information would be very valuable right about now, because Vader just so happens to be completely enclosed within a suit of armor, and both his arms and legs are robotic. Now, even if we were to give him the benefit of doubt and say he could suck the soul out just by touching his armor, we then have the problem with the Force. The Force is no stranger to the whole soul, spirits, and afterlife thing. I mean, there's literally a Force power that allows you to not die and come back as a ghost. So I'd have a hard time believing that he wouldn't be able to resist having his soul sucked out somehow. Not to mention the fact that he has no chakra, and we don't know whether or not this is a requirement for stealing someone's soul, which it very well could be. Now, moving on to the Asura Path. The Asura Path is pretty self-explanatory. It's a mechanized cyborg thing that allows you to shoot missiles, rocket fists, and laser beams. And that's pretty much it. It's got a couple other melee weapons, but I mean, Vader's whole universe is based around laser beams, missiles, and cybernetics. I mean, he pretty much destroys everyone else in Star Wars, so this would just be a walk in the park for him. So next up is the Naraku Path. And once again, can't really do anything to Vader. He's also more of a support path. He does have similar instant kill abilities like the Human Path, but he's got to get him in this whole weird chokehold and go through this interrogation thing first, which I have a very hard time seeing this being effective against Vader. I mean, he's not useless or anything. He's probably one of the most important of the 6 paths of pain. Pain's even showed us to sacrifice other pains just to keep this one from being killed. Since if any of the other pains are actually damaged or destroyed, he can just use the Naraku Path to revive them. So it's a very big asset during fights. And now for the Diva Path. Oh boy, oh. So of course, I saved the best for last. The Diva Path is really the only one who's capable of dealing any serious damage to Vader. In fact, just a solo fight without any help from the other paths of pain, just him and Vader, would in itself be completely insane. Now, one thing I haven't talked about yet is how any of the pains, including the Diva Path, going to deal with the lightsaber. It can literally cut through anything, right? I mean, just one hit from this lightsaber and it's pretty much a game over. Well, now that's not entirely true. Granted, there are actually some things that can block a lightsaber. Now, it can't cut through most materials, but there are things like certain kinds of metals in the Star Wars universe that have been used in swords and armor, just like Vader's armor, that can actually block a lightsaber. There are also energy-based weapons that can block a lightsaber as well, so I would assume that any other energy-based weapon really could probably block it. So now that we do know that there are in fact stuff that can be used to counter a lightsaber, does Pain have something that can actually do this? Well, one option is to use his black receiver rods. Now these things are mainly meant for just controlling the 6 paths of pain and being receivers for his chakra, but I mean, if you're going to be able to sprout pointy black rods out of your body, chances are you're going to use them for other things. And that's exactly what Pain does. He uses them as projectiles, staves, spears, swords, and other such melee weapons and stuff like that. Now, the thing about these rods is that I don't think they're inherently very strong, because Hinata was able to snap these things in half with just one hit from her gentle fist. But then later on, we see Pain throw just one of these like a spear at the Nine Tails, and it straight up goes ballistic, catching on fire and screaming in pain and stuff. So my thoughts are that the receivers by themselves are fragile and brittle, but Pain can harden and control them to his liking, which would explain why Hinata was able to snap these things in half so easily, and why it seems so much more damaging to the Six Tails Cloak Naruto. So, could he make it hard enough to block a lightsaber? Well, Six Tails Cloak Naruto was strong enough to overpower Pain's almighty push, and this was able to destroy the entire Leaf Village in just one blast. So just from this knowledge alone, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that he very well could. Now, I don't think that just a single rod could withstand multiple blows from a lightsaber, as the intense heat would still melt it, but that's not much of an issue because Pain can basically has a limitless supply of these things. You can just sprout them out. Like, forever. Now for the duo path's two other noteworthy abilities, Shenrai Tensei and Chubaku Tensei. Oh boy. Okay, so I'm just going to lay it straight out there. Vader would absolutely tank Shenrai Tensei. Because even if we were to give Shenrai Tensei the highball and say at best the attack is large city level in power, Vader's armor alone has large building level durability, and he's been seen to create large city level force barriers in strength and durability, which would be more than enough to withstand his attack. So all in all, if Pain just used Shenrai Tensei, Vader would just erect a force shield to protect himself, survive the attack, and then kill the now helpless Diva Path. Now for Chubaku Tensei. Now, Chubaku Tensei is a whole other story. It's a gravity-based attack that basically sucks up all the surrounding terrain to create this massive, weird planetoid thing. Now, if Pain can do all the crazy, insane crap we see him do in the anime fight against Nine-Tailed State Naruto, Vader's definitely going to be in some serious trouble. Now, maybe if he was just magneting, is that a word? I think that's a word. I'm going to assume it is. The terrain, and Vader was caught on top of one of the things like Naruto's scene right here, then I'm sure he could escape the gravitational field of Chubaku Tensei using force barriers, levitating himself through the air, and force blasting into large boulders out of the way, etc. But if Pain uses any of this shit, then Vader's definitely going to end up getting stuck in this giant thing, completely crushed and flattened like a fly in a windshield. Now, if Vader just gets trapped in it and Pain didn't do any of this crazy stuff, then there is one last option for Vader, a force field blast, which is when Vader concentrates the force and turns it into destructive ripples that has the power to blast anything and anyone out of their path. The only limit being how powerful Vader is when projecting the blast and how much he's willing to put into it, which at this point Vader's pretty much got nothing left to lose. Now, how powerful a blast would it be, huh? Well, it's impossible to say, really. There's just too many different variables to consider here. How weak Vader was at this point, how much strength he had left, how angry he was at the moment. Yes, how angry he was. You see, Darth Vader's rage is much like that of the Hulk's. The angrier he gets, the stronger he becomes. The whole thing about Vader is that he's known for his insane stamina and durability. And the fact that even when it seems like he's on the losing side of the battle, he's on the very edge of defeat, if he still feels rage and anger, he can keep on fighting. So even if I can't figure out the extent of the force field blast, I know that being trapped inside of a small moon, being slowly crushed to death, and having some spiky orange-haired guy tell you that his pain is far greater than yours, I'm pretty sure Vader couldn't be madder at this point. But sadly, all this doesn't do Vader much good, because in the end, even if he was able to create a blast powerful enough to blast his way out, he'd be completely drained afterwards and would have no strength left. And it's very unlikely that he would survive after this, as either the fall itself or from all the debris crashing on top of him. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Vader's stronger than all the other Pains, could defeat them relatively easy. He's strong enough to survive Shenrai Tensei, but not Chubaku Tensei. All in all, though, I'd say they're pretty evenly matched. Pain just outclasses Darth Vader when it comes to widespread destruction and the incredible gravitational power of Chubaku Tensei. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. Comment down below any ideas you might have for future fights. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified for any future videos I upload. And that's all for now, guys. Until next time, Sith Art Master out.